I'm Liz Hanna. I'm the writer of the short film we're shooting right now called Hello Apartment, directed by Dakota Fanning. So I met Dakota a few years ago. We share the same manager, and we sort of had, similar tastes, similar films that we were interested in, and so we hit it off. And then when she was sort of considering doing this short, she talked to me about it, and the idea of sort of reliving your past while going through sort of what's happening in your life now in one space was something that was really interesting to me. And I think when you're doing a short, it's so time constricting. You want to have a large audience, as big an audience as possible, relate to something in 10 minutes. And this felt extremely universal to me. The idea of marking, a place that you've lived over time, revisiting it, and sort of having the scars of it etched throughout its history. So that's something Dakota and I talked about a lot, is how do you get what you want across emotionally, in your characters in 10 minutes, without your audience feeling like, I've been here a while, what's happening? And that, I think, really came for us in sort of looking at something very generally and looking at a space and saying, okay, we want to use one space, because that sort of structurally for us was a really easy way to say, okay, we can tell the story of kind of this space in 10 minutes. And then what's the story in that? She had been sort of thinking about this idea for a long time, and I personally, right before I had started writing this, I had been gone from my house for about 3 months. And so I went home and I kind of was hit by this very real, after living in hotels for 3 months and then coming home, you're hit by this sort of very safe, but very scarred place that you live. And that's something universal. That's something that everybody has experienced. Everybody has that place. Either it's your childhood home, or the first apartment you ever lived in as an adult, or the first apartment you shared with somebody else. I mean, there's moments in your life that everybody's experienced. So I think in terms of writing a short, it was actually this was a very easy thing to kind of explore in a short amount of time, because we didn't have to figure out how to make people relate to it, because it's such a universal idea as it is. I think, for me, I would love to be referred to as a writer and not a female writer. And as I think most directors, if you're a male director, you're not referred to as a male director. So the specification really only happens if you're a woman. And I agree with what Dakota was saying before, is that it's really about making no distinction happen, and that it's not about a female director or a male director. It's just about, this is the person who was right for the job. Personally, in my experience, even if you get hired, you're the only woman in the room the majority of the time. It's very often that, not often, every time you're outnumbered. And it's hard to not feel disempowered by that. And I think the important thing is just to empower other women to be in the rooms. It only happens if we have the numbers. And so it's like what Mimi Tales is doing, empowering women to tell their stories, to tell stories about women, to have women behind the camera, in front of the camera. And I think it's really easy to get discouraged. It's really easy to walk into any of these rooms and be the only woman, and feel like this is a really uphill battle. But then little things happen, little things get chipped away, little stories get told that are important, that are from a different perspective. And so it's about pushing the boulder up the hill for as long as it takes, but about just never letting it roll back down. I think it's just about never letting the conversation become stale, and never letting anybody feel like, oof, I'm tired of talking about numbers, and I'm tired of talking about percentages. It's important. It's happening. I think that's the thing, is all of this horrible news that's coming out right now. At least the Pandora's box has been opened. It's all coming out. You can't hide anymore, and it's almost just, we have to rip the Band-Aid off, and now we as women have an opportunity. Our voices are being heard. And it's, I think, an important time to stand up and have our voices be heard, and have our voices be heard very loudly. And to keep doing projects like this, to keep doing projects that speak for a universal type of woman, and is by women.